Welcome to r/revenge stories, where you will hear satisfying revenge stories from 4 different subreddits. If you are new around here, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel because I upload daily content, and without wasting any more time, let's dive right in. And the first one is from r/pettyrevenge and is titled "My Neighbors Partied and Kept Me Awake." I think this fits in petty revenge, let me know if I am wrong. Years ago I lived in a classic Southern California apartment complex. The kind that is 2 stories high and all have balconies or porches if you are on the ground floor. At the time I worked in a grocery store and could have shifts that started as early as 3:30 in the morning. When I had that shift on weekends, sleep could be hard to come by due to various gatherings around the apartment complex. I usually would not say anything about noise until 23 o'clock on weeknights and 24 o'clock on weekends. A new couple moved in right above us and were incredibly noisy at all times. They hosted a party on Friday and Saturday night. Since they had just moved in, I decided to let it go and not be that neighbor. The next weekend it happened again, and on Friday night about midnight I went outside and looked up at the people on the balcony and asked if they could quiet down. They mostly complied and I went to bed. The next night they were at it again, and this time when I went out to ask them to be quiet, I got a lot of "frick you" and "just go back inside." I did. I figured that I would wait for a better time to actually meet the upstairs neighbors. The next Friday afternoon rolls around and I can tell they are getting ready to have another party. They see me and start giving me grief and letting me know that I had better not complain, etc. The party wrapped up around 1:30 AM, Saturday night was worse. They were still partying when I left for work at 3 AM and I heard some parting shots as I walked to my car. I knew I had to act, but I did not know. Then slowly a plan emerged and I knew what I was going to do. I baked cupcakes for the new neighbors. I waited until Thursday morning at 2:45 AM. I took the plate of cupcakes to the neighbors. I went to their door and police knocked. The door opened and he was mad. He started to say something and then he looked up. He was about 5'6" and I am 6'1" tall. He was slight and I probably weighed about 175 pounds. I just put my best neighborly grin on my face and held out the plate of cupcakes. He regained some composure and starts to angrily ask me what I was doing. Then he said my favorite line: "Do you know what time it is? I have to get up for work in a few hours. Frick, you are rude." Once again I held out the cupcakes and said, "I'm so sorry, I just figured that you are always up at this time since I see you every weekend." It was then that it clicked in his feeble mind what I was getting at. He accepted the cupcakes. I fully thought that I would have to do this again, but he seemed to have learned his lesson. After that, most parties wrapped up by around 30 minutes after midnight. And guys, I'm curious, did you ever have to deal with any super annoying, noisy neighbors? And if you did, how did you deal with them? Let us know in the comments. And the next one is from r/regularrevenge and is titled "Brother was a terrible houseguest, so I exploited his phobia." I feel I should start by saying I really don't like my brother. He's younger but has always been a jerk, leech and general screw up. The kind of guy who drinks all but a half ounce of the orange juice and puts the bottle back in the fridge or takes someone else's lunch from the fridge at work. I have also never heard him say thank you except as kids when he was forced to by our parents. Our parents did a generally good job of raising us, no abuse, no narcissism, no crazy church stuff. So it is all him. Last summer we were having some brutally hot/humid weather for our area, 90 degrees with 85% humidity at 9 PM sort of thing, and he knocked on my door giving a sob story about how his car was broken down nearby and he needed a place to stay. If it were up to me, I would have shut the door in his face. But my wife came to the door too, and since she's a better person than me, insisted we let him in. I did not complain because I did not want to deal with her in a grumpy mood. I cooked dinner, steak with mashed potatoes and green beans, more than he deserved, and we made awkward small talk, him complaining about his current job until I was able to end the conversation. We set him up in the guest room and headed off to sleep. He never thanked me or my wife for the shelter or the meal. I woke up the next morning around 7 to find him passed out on the floor downstairs in the area where my home theater is set up, a couple feet from a big pile of vomit on the carpet. And an empty bottle of scotch that I had purchased only a few days before and not opened yet. Lagavulin 16, whatever you pronounce that, to be specific, so not a cheap bottle. I had bought it for myself as a celebration for getting an anniversary raise at work. The sight of my brother having finished an entire bottle of scotch and then puked it up on my carpet was not exactly what I wanted to see first thing on a Saturday morning. And then, because of the douchebag that I am, an idea struck me. My brother is terrified of thunder, was as a kid, is still as a grown man, no real reason for it, it's just a phobia of his like heights are for some people. There is a small bathroom downstairs with a door that swings outwards instead of inwards because the previous owner crammed everything into as small a space as possible. So I dragged my brother's sorry drunk ass into the bathroom and left him on the floor. Not being a total jerk, I grabbed a box of saltine crackers, a couple bottles of Gatorade, some aspirin and a plastic cup for water and put them in there with him. Then I closed the door and kicked 2 door wedges under it so he could not get out of the bathroom. Then I went and found some thunderstorm sounds and fired up my home theater system. It's nothing that would make the home theater subreddit jealous, but it is way more than a soundbar or basic home theater in a box. The subwoofer can make drinks on the table rattle. I fired up the thunderstorm sounds and cranked up the speakers. Then I went upstairs to make myself some coffee and breakfast. The floor vibrated with the synthetic storm in the basement and my groggy wife was wondering why the hell it sounded like a storm when it was shaping up to be another scorcher. I told her what my brother had done and what I had done. She looked furious and looked at the clock, which was at about 8:15, and said, "Leave that ungrateful little shit in there until 10. After my coffee, I went down to clean up the puke and heard him sobbing and banging on the door, yelling, "F you, stop it!" and other nonsense. I yelled back, "Have some crackers and Gatorade," and turned up the speakers a bit. Not much, because I did not want to damage my equipment. Around 10 AM, I turned the thunderstorm off. I heard crying coming from the bathroom. I pulled out the wedges, opened the door, and saw my brother's pathetic ass curled up in the shower stall. I looked at him for a long time until he looked up at me and started to say, "You son of a..." "Shut the hell up and get out of my house." I cut over him. "You are never allowed to ask for my help again." Eyes still red, he slunk out of the house and got an Uber. I have not heard from him since. I had to answer a couple of confused texts from my parents, but mild annoyance on their part was really the only fallout. And guys, would you say this was deserved or was it a bit too much what OP did? Let us know in the comments, and while you're at it, please don't forget to post some star emojis in the comments and also like the video if you want to support me. Let's try to reach 1000 likes, that would be absolutely amazing. The next one is an absolute beauty and is from r/ProRevenge and is titled 70% of my pay? Okay, I will get a new job. Not me, but a guy I worked with 10 years ago. I guess it counts as a revenge. I worked with a guy who really stuck it to his ex-wife. When I met him, he was working in a sporting goods store making $8 an hour. He was not really like the other retail monkeys. He was older, well-groomed, well-spoken, clearly educated, etc. One night after work, he gets into his car and I could not help but notice that it was a very nice newish Jaguar. I asked him how he could afford it and he explained it to me. He had been an SVP at a well-known Fortune 50 company, which I will not mention the name of, pulling in 300k with bonuses and stock options. He was married, but the marriage fell apart and in the divorce she demanded that she gets the house and 40% of his wages. He and his lawyer somehow managed to get her to agree to let him keep the house in exchange for 75% of his pay, no dollar figure or employer specified. As soon as she took the settlement, he quit his job and looked for a minimum wage job. He said to me that she gets 75% of nearly nothing now. He had other money stashed away, so he did not even need the job, and he had the house and its equity as well. Also, no kids, so there was no child support, just alimony. She was furious, of course, and tried to sue him, but failed at least once, and when she claimed that the settlement was not keeping her in the lifestyle she was accustomed to, he simply told the judge that the divorce was traumatic to him and he could no longer do his old job as a result. At least at that time, she did not manage to get out of the deal. Not sure how it all ended, but I thought it was effing brilliant, if not crazy level spiteful. He was a good employee too, good with customers, showed up on time, no bullcrap absenteeism or anything like that. He claimed he loved each payday because it reminded him how little she was getting. And guys, I'm curious, did you ever get a divorce? Let us know in the comments how you have dealt with it. And the next one is a delicious nuclear revenge story and is titled New York City Bar Too Expensive for Midwest Man. In the early 2000s, I worked in an Irish pub on 2nd Avenue and 9th St in Manhattan. We were used to seeing Midwestern men on a business trip announce that they will get the bill, this one is on me, only to regret when they see the bill, sticker shock, and realize that drinks in Manhattan don't cost the same as their local dive bar. Enter Ohio businessman OB, waitress W, me. So this group of guys comes in and starts ordering beers. One guy, OB, announces loudly to order whatever you want, this tab is on me. So they rack up a tab of around $400 in just over 3 hours. When the bill is brought to OB, he starts yelling about being overcharged. There is no way this is our bill, we did not drink this much. I approached the table to try to help. Me, what seems to be the problem? OB, this female dog is trying to overcharge us. She's trying to charge us for extra drinks. Me, what is the problem on the bill? OB, well, first of all, there are 6 shots on the bill. We never had any shots. Me, sir, there are 6 empty shot glasses on the table. OB, okay, maybe we had the shots, but there is no way we drank this many beers. Me, sir, there are 6 of you. You have been here for over 3 hours. At that rate, this bill says you and your friends have averaged 1 beer per 45 minutes. Does that sound outrageous to you? OB, friends of OB, it's fine, let us pay. OB, no, I will pay. Okay. So he pays. He tips $7.37 because this would make his expense report total out to the closest $10. After this, W comes up to me to tell me he left his wallet in the booth. She's shaking, she tells me she wants to chuck it in the trash. I tell her to hand it to me, I will take care of this. I take the driver's license out of the wallet, put it on top and rubber band the lot. Keep in mind, government issued ID means free postage, and walk a block up the street to drop this in a USPS box. OB comes back asking about his wallet. I tell him what I did. He goes off on me about, what am I supposed to do for money? My hotel key was in there. He even threatened to call the police, to which I responded, for what? Going out of my way to make sure your belongings made it back to you? He kept going on about how he had no money, no hotel key, no cards for the rest of his visit. I know he left before it ever occurred to him to ask, how would he get on that flight home? Welcome to New York City, mother lovers. Edit, just want to add that they ordered food as well. I did not include that in the original post because OB did not complain about food costs. He only complained about the drinks. I think domestic beers were around $5, imports were around $7, and top shelf shots were around $11. And guys, I know that actually quite a few of my viewers live in New York City, and I'm sure most of you have already been to New York City, so I'm curious, what was the most that you have spent there on a night out? Let us know in the comments. And the next one is a bonus story from r/ripe stories and is titled My Psychopathic Neighbor Flees the Country, Then Gets Extradited Back. And guys, I'm not sure if I would call this a classic revenge story, but it's more of a you get what you deserve story. Firstly, I would just like to say that I'm sharing this saga, shall we say, because I have always wanted to share this story on Reddit, but have never found a subreddit that would allow this story until now. Second, I think this is too crazy of a story to tell, and not telling would be a mistake. Secondly, before I begin, I would like to describe to you what my neighbor looked like, so you can get the full experience. Imagine a bald-haired white man with huge bushy black eyebrows, huge squarish glasses, and wore a checkered button-up shirt. For as long as I could remember, my neighbor Larry and his wife, Nice Lady, lived across the street to me and ran a bed and breakfast, important to remember. I never really had any drama with Larry or Nice Lady. They went to my brother and mine's yard sales, they brought my Bratz doll toy camera, which I regretted, for their grandchild. The series of unfortunate events first began for myself and family when we returned to Australia after we lived in Denmark to be closer to my dad's family for 2 years. My family had adopted 2 puppies, Luke and Sherlock, and the dogs, mainly Sherlock, loved to bark at every minute thing. Larry did not like this, so one day Larry comes barging on our front door and says something along the lines of, "Shut your effing dogs up." My dad, being a "I don't take this creepy old man's shit" type of guy, opens the door and says, "Get off my effing property." Larry does not, and my dad physically throws him off our property after warning him multiple times. Larry swears revenge and calls the police for assault and complains about my dogs. My dad does the same. The police come to my house and my dad explains his side of the story while the officers constantly pet my dogs. We then learn that the police have Larry on their database under several names. These names include Larry Larry, Larry Larry, and now Larry the Larry. Not kidding, this is basically the man's names, just changed 2 letters. To summarize, neither my dad or Larry sought legal action because they both could sue each other, aggravated assault my dad, and trespassing Larry. I just want to comment that someone from our local council was sent over due to a noise complaint, my dogs. Ironically, the council member came while my dogs were away, she did not know, so the complaint was dismissed. By the way, did I add that both of Larry's next door neighbors have dogs and our dogs were not even barking when Larry bangs on our front door. Skip forward to a couple of months, my mom is talking to a neighbor who is friends with Nice Lady, I think. She then finds out that Larry was poisoning his wife, yes you heard right, poisoning his own wife with arsenic. Why you think he did this? Because Larry wanted ownership of the house for his bed and breakfast. His plan failed when Nice Lady had a blood test or something, as she was extremely unwell and the doctors were unable to work out what was wrong. Of course, the doctors found arsenic in her bloodstream. I don't know what happened directly after, but I'm assuming that Nice Lady connected the dots and realized that it had to be Larry because he was the one making the food and there was no other way of the arsenic getting into her system. To my mom's and later myself's shock, Larry fled Australia but was extradited back due to Nice Lady wanting to press charges on her ex-husband. Nice Lady had a restraining order placed on Larry. This meant that he was unable to legally go down my street. One night during dinner, when I found out the full story of Larry, it turns out Larry was talking creepily to my older brother when he was around 3 to 5 years old and asking him if he would like to pet Oscar. To give you an idea of Oscar the cat and his relationship with Larry, envision an entitled parent who loved its child too much. I can remember Larry wailing to Oscar, who was hiding on the roof, saying, "Come down Oscar, please." I included this cause because I thought it was funny, and it's like, you do realize that cats do this all the time, right? Also because Oscar, like seriously mate, what were you thinking with that name? It's a cat. Here we are, early 2020, Nice wife has moved out, a family has moved in. I thought that I had finished Larry, nothing new, nothing to add, but boy was I wrong. I had neighbors who lived 3 doors up and moved out a couple of years ago. Their house has been sold 5 times in the past 20 years by the same real estate agent, each time getting sold for $250,000 more, so my former neighbors decided to see how much it would sell for and what it looked like now. I, for some reason, said, "Did you hear about Larry?" One of my neighbors said, "No." I then smiled and told her husband and son, the entire story. And the neighbor adds that, When husband was on deployment and son was still a baby, Larry would just randomly walk into the house, did not knock, did not say that he was there, just came inside. I was alone with a baby, who knows what he could have done, I was terrified, and Larry always said that nice lady was sick and they had no idea what was wrong with her. At this point, I'm not surprised. So at last, we are at the end, nothing has happened, I've never seen Larry the Larry ever again, and I hope to never see him again. Thank you all, sorry in advance if there are any spelling mistakes, this seems to have been written strangely, I've tried not to, but it is what it is. Guys, did you ever have a creepy neighbor like Larry? Let us know in the comments. And with that, we have reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's content, and if you did, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel to join our amazing community. Furthermore, don't forget to go to r/ripestories on Reddit to post your own stories if you want me to read them out in a video. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I see you again tomorrow.